Hello everyone, my name is Uchi and I am a PhD student at Monash University. Today I'm going to present results of some magma emplacement experiment that investigate the role of magma solidification on sill morphologies and flow channelization. And the image here shows a snapshot of a solidifying sill intrusion with meander-like flow channels and some discrete lobes. Understanding the conduit geometry is an important yet quite challenging process and may differ from region to region or within the same intrusion. From what our current understanding, several geometries have been proposed and widely used in several magmatic sulphide deposits. For example, cubular conduits in Nipobibble deposit, ribbon or elongated shaped sills in Norilsk, and funnel-shaped conduits in Eagle deposit. The link between the lithospheric architecture, nickel-copper mineralization, and geochemical origin is generally well understood, but we know less about how does magma flow through solidifying intrusions to form channels, or how sulfide liquids are trapped and transported within these conduits, and also how solidification of magma leads to the formation of magma conduits. So we use analog modeling approach to model solidifying sills and magma channelization. Here we use a material called Laponite, a synthetic clay, as our crustal analog, as you can see here, and the coconut oil as the magma analog. Coconut oil is then injected to the interface between the two layered Laponite concentrations using a heated syringe pump, which we can control the temperature of the coconut oil. And the intrusion propagation is then monitored using high-resolution DSLR cameras placed on top and side to capture the plan view and the side view. As I mentioned earlier, Laponite RD is a synthetic clay which becomes a transparent gel once mixed with water. It is chemically and biologically stable and show nice photoelastic properties which we can use to map stress fields, as you can see in here. From the rheological analysis, we found that Laponite shows a whole range of viscoelastoplastic rheology related to the most of the crustal rocks. For example, as you can see in these two figures, as we increase the shear strain of different concentration of Laponite, the shear stresses showing different regions such as linear viscoelastics, strain hardening, strain softening, and plastic behavior. So for the geological analog modeling purposes, this is a perfect option. And as the magma analogs, we use paraffin oil or coconut oil in different models such as isothermal and magma cooling and solidification. As previously mentioned, coconut oil is our magma analog, which can behave as either as a solid or a liquid depending on the temperature. And the figure in the bottom left shows how its temperature dependent viscosity vary during a cooling curve as we cool the coconut oil from 50 degrees Celsius towards the 10 degrees Celsius. A significant change in viscosity occurs around 20 degrees Celsius and considered here as the solidification temperature of the magma analog. To scale models to nature, we have used two non-dimensional numbers. First one is the dimensionless temperature, which describes the thermal conditions of our model. We have selected this parameter because we changed the injection temperature in the model to see the effects of intrusion propagation. When this number goes to 1, the injecting temperature becomes closer to the solidification temperature, and we can expect some strong solidification effects. On the other hand, when this theta goes to 0, the injectant temperature is greater than the solidus temperature of the coconut oil, and we can expect some weak solidification effects. The second scaling parameter is the dimensionless flux, which explains the dynamical conditions of the model. As you can see in this table below, all the parameters have been selected so that these two numbers, theta and phi, are within the range of natural values. Before we move into the model results, let's have a quick look on how an isothermal experiment in the same setup would look like, because the intrusion style and the propagation are different for models with constant and variable temperatures of the injecting magma analog. Two videos here are presenting side and the plan view, but in this case, we used paraffin oil as the magma analog, since we are dealing with a constant temperature magma analog. You can see intrusion first start within the interface, and then it propagate as a flat inner sill, which then it start to form inclined source shape intrusion. Both flat and the source shape intrusion propagate with non-planar margin, as you can see in this finger-like or lobe-like structures. So now let's have a look on the preliminary results of magma cooling and solidification. Here I'm going to show you a plan view video of case 1, which we use injecting temperature as 25 degrees as the gel temperature about 20 degrees. And in this case, we use volumetric flow rate as 1 milliliter per minute. So you can see the intrusion propagate as a planar crack, and solidification starts from the thick inner part, somewhere around here, and move towards the thin out margin. The solidifying regions are shown by this either by dark red or brown colors. Interpreted side view figure shown here shows how top and the bottom of the intrusion solidify quickly, while the intrusion front is still in fluid form. Moving on from case 1 to 2, here we reduce the gel temperature from 20 degrees to 10 degrees, and the flux remain constant, and the injecting temperature also remain constant. Intrusion propagates with non-planar margin, while the interior eventually becomes solidified. Also, in this case, solidifying regions are shown by either dark red or brown color. Interestingly, with time, we can see the development of a low, narrow channel which connects the inlets to the propagating front of the intrusion. As you can see here, this long and narrow channel connects the inlets to all the way up to the end of the intrusion. In case 3, the only parameter we change in this model is the volumetric flow rate. All the other two temperatures are kept constant. And let's have a look on how it propagates. We can clearly see that solidification, it starts from the middle somewhere here, and the propagation front is non-planar. In this case, due to the high volumetric flow rate, we can observe the development of a finger-like or lobe-like structures compared to the case 2. But surprisingly, in this case, we haven't observed the development of any flow channels. If you look again some time series images of case 2, we can clearly see the development of this long-lived narrow flow channel. As sketched in below, when solidification effects are weak, the uniform crack is developed with solidified top and bottom boundaries. However, with time, solidification becomes dominant and the central fluid part of the intrusion becomes narrower. For the same experiment, we have traced the boundaries of the flow channel and observed that this long-lived narrow channel consists of a raft of solidified magma here and here, and some breakout points at the outer margin of the intrusion. And the channel eventually gets smaller and thinner before complete solidification, as you can see here. So let's move on onto the experiment with strong solidification, where the injecting temperature of the coconut oil is closer to the solidus temperature of the coconut oil. As you can see, we used injecting temperature as 21 degrees compared to the 20 degrees of solidification temperature. In this case, solidification and the propagation style of the intrusion is different from the previous cases and show a complex internal branching pattern. As you can see, the solidification starts at the propagating front of the intrusion, which breaks through the smaller channels forming fanning lobe-like structures and consists of lots of meander-like flow channels. And with time, you can see there will be a couple of more lobe-like structures forming underneath the previously solidified intrusion, as you can see here, here, and here. So in the cross-sectional and the plan view, when solidification effects are strong, the intrusion initially solidified at the propagating front, which then separate blocks with flow channels break out to form lobe or meander-like flow channels. Here, for the same experiment with different time series images, we can see model cells have marginal lobes and time-dependent internal meandering channels, as you can see here, here, and here, that connects central feeder to the lobes. These cells are discontinuous and propagate with discrete lobes-like structures with the propagating margin. And it's representing a period of momentary tip arrest and freezing during cell propagation. As a conclusion, when injecting temperature is close to the solidus temperature and with high magma flow rate, intrusions show complex geometries with distinct lobes and internal branching channels. As a summary, long and narrow magma channels develop when solidification effects are weak. Complex internal branching channels occur that feed discrete lobes when solidification effects are strong. Previous experiment with solidifying magma and viscoelastic crustal analogues, as you can see here and here, only develop penny-shaped cracks with discrete lobe-like structures, but without any channelization or internal flow channels, as we observed in our models. As for the implications, these long-lived channelized flow paths within intrusions are similar to tubular or funnel-like magma conduits associated with magmatic sulphide deposits. Detailed analysis of these solidifying analog intrusions and magma channels can potentially be used to predict conduit geometries in igneous intrusions that host magmatic sulphide deposits. And that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening. Now I'm happy to take any questions during our discussion.